But that's the craziness we see, right? Nobody wants to hear the truth as to what really happened.
I'm Josiah.
And I'm Adam.
We are Salida Gun Shop. Today we welcome Jason Mikesell, current Teller County Sheriff, and now has put his hat in the ring for governor of Colorado. So definitely excited to have you here. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
I like to get out and about, so this is good.
Yeah. And you said it was about an hour and a half?
Hour and 45 minutes, somewhere in there.
Yeah. Make good time and hopefully get you back before it's too dark tonight.
I think it'll be fine. I'm pretty used to being out late anymore.
Nice. Awesome.
Curiosity for me is, you're running for governor. What takes you from being a sheriff for several years now and then putting your hat in the ring for governor?
Sure. I think that's a good question. I get it quite a bit, but something people don't know about me probably is that I'm also an entrepreneur. So I scaled a small company to a large company. My wife and I own now 4 or 5 different businesses. Mm-hmm. So we own 2 restaurants, and we own some apartment buildings, and we own some commercial properties. And I still have my large company too. And here's what was starting to really bother me as a sheriff, right? I was watching crime go through the roof. I was watching our businesses just get pounded by all kinds of fees and taxes, and what I saw within a state was that they were just crushing local businesses. Mm-hmm. And it's continuing on. And as a sheriff, I was watching them just destroy law enforcement officers across the state, but it was also taking away citizens' abilities to protect themselves. Mm-hmm. And it was just hurting communities just countywide and then statewide. And then I have 3 boys. I have 1 in law enforcement. I've got 1 in security work where he does technical security stuff, software. And I have 1 that's in the 173rd Airborne in Vicenza, Italy. So I'd always told my boys as they were growing up, don't ever whine and cry about something. Go out and fix it. So I was whining and crying about all these issues. And I woke up one morning and go, if it's going to be fixed, I need to fix it. And the problem I had was that I had supported other candidates throughout the years. And what I really saw was that I didn't believe any of the candidates that were going to run could win an election because they couldn't reach out to the unaffiliated, the independents. Now they say they can, but can they?
Right.
And then I thought a sheriff actually has more abilities to talk to the base than anybody because people expect their sheriffs are going to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And the other side of it too is I've had a history in my career of doing those things, not just talking about things. Where a lot of candidates, they're going to tell you they're going to do something, it never gets done, they don't know how to approach it. So with a business background and a law enforcement background, the 2 biggest issues in Colorado right now is the economy and crime. Mm-hmm. So how better to be able to deal with that stuff if you know how to actually deal with those?
Yeah.
So it was a little bit different than a lot of politicians that get up and say, hey, I can fix the economy, I know how to deal with crime. Do you really? Because I've not seen it. I've not seen one career politician fix anything. Right. In the last however many years. So
when you stepped into Teller County, what brought you back into being sheriff for Teller County after being retired? Was it the need?
It was a need at the time. So when I came back, I had started my own company. I was doing very well anyways. The commissioners at the time had reached out to me and asked me to come back because we had really a large amount of cartel in our county from the black market marijuana. So they had a lot of issues. They had 200% turnover. It was just a constant, issue within the county. So I flew back. I actually was overseas. Mm-hmm. I flew back 26 hours to get back. My kids were still in school, and they were having issues with being, solicited for marijuana and different drugs within the schools because it was so prevalent. Mm. And I was so concerned about it. I went, you know what? I can put my stuff on hold. Yeah. But a community can't put its life on hold. So I came back. I went through an interview process. They hired me immediately. That was on a Friday. They hired me. I went back into the office on a Monday morning. We started to develop how to deal with the cartels and the issues within the community. And then I met with the DA's offices and I met with different organizations from throughout the state. And we, within 6 months, had driven those organizations out of our county.
Wow.
Because I think having a background, I was a SWAT guy, and I had been in investigations. I had done intel work, so I knew exactly the processes that were needed to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I fully expected that I would then leave, and somebody else would be voted into office after 2 years, because it was a 2-year thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I could continue on my way. And what happened was that nobody would run, and then so nobody has run. So after now, I have 2 years left, or about a year now. So it was just a success from the get go, and that was why I came back, was really for family and community.
What year are we talking about there?
It was like right around the 2016 period.
Okay, 2016 time frame. So you're 3 years post marijuana going legal in Colorado, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep. That's interesting. That's an interesting concept. I lived in Hanover, Colorado, for a while, out in the middle of nowhere, and all the abandoned places ended up not being abandoned anymore.
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting too, because even the marijuana industry was having a hard time, because black market marijuana was so prevalent, and you had the state of Colorado telling people that it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Right. So then we invited the news media in. I started podcasts. We started all this kind of stuff, and we were just hammering these organizations every day. And I would bring the news crews in, and they would be seeing it, and then we'd have dump trucks with the marijuana in the back of it. Then you started to see it spread into different counties where they wanted to do it too. So then it was El Paso County, because at first I was told by other sheriffs, "What are you doing? You're crazy. This is this is not good for your career. It's politically." And I went, "I don't care about politics. I care about doing the right thing." So then we went to the state, and we got it changed on how they fund organizations. And then they started identifying that we do have a black market problem.
Okay.
And then they came out with some rulings that they were going to support the eradication of black market marijuana. And then they were saying, "Hey, we'll give you the money at the end of the year." So I went in and fought, "Hey, no, it needs to be done in a fiscal cycle," which means I need the money up front to be able to continue battling this. And then they started breaking it to up front and giving out to organizations, agencies. So it really kind of dismantled the black market marijuana industry.
So you've been up front and center at the Capitol, testifying, bringing eyewitness testimony. And then recently with 003, Proposition KK, all of these things that have kind of come almost very abrupt and piling on. You've been a pinnacle piece of a voice of reason and understanding through since then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nope, we were tip of the spear on that. We were tip of the spear on immigration issues in the state.
Yes.
4 years ago, we were saying that this was going to happen, that we were going to start seeing Trendalagua actually develop in the state, and cartels were taking over the state. It was so crazy. You had legislators laughing at us going, "Oh, you're a liar. They called me everything in the book on the Senate floor." And what was interesting is that all those predictions that we had 4 years ago came true. Yeah. And now you're seeing it in spades. And we said the same thing about the firearms bills. The heightening of your taxes. Now, 6.7%, 6.5%
excise.
We saw that coming. The issues of going after the firearms now, and how they came after, and the testimony they give about, well, gas operated weapons. It's only those pistols. I'm like, well, they're all gas operated. There's no.
Yeah, it's really hard to define, even though they say we're not going after pistols, but we can talk about that. In the hearing.
Yeah, they went after it. Yeah. So, so we did. We were up there. I even went up for when they were talking about the financial side of it, which nobody else went up for, was to talk about how are you funding it. There's no way you're going to fund it under current state practices. You're going to use Pitkins-Robbins money, which is illegal for you to do so. And then I had a Democratic member out of Castle Rock ask a question to one of the poor guys that got up to talk about it. He was asking him, "Well, if it's Pitkins-Robbins, tell me how that works, and how would we be, how does the state get in trouble for the federal use?" So when I got up to speak, so you only get 2 minutes, and the first thing I said is, I would welcome you to ask me that question, because I'll give you the answer that you were wrong and that you will be audited, and you will lose your Pitkins-Robbins money. And then I went into my testimony, and at the end of it, he about halfway through my testimony, he got up and walked out of the room and left. Right, because he didn't want to ask me those questions, because he knew what was about to happen.
Yeah.
And then I had some smart Republicans that asked me that question, and we told them, this is going to be an issue. And we also talked about the fact that you, as gun shop owners, there's no way that you're going to be able to have the same sales after this goes into effect as from where you have now, because it's going to make it so hard. You're going to have at least a 6 month to a year lag time to get people up fast enough to be able to purchase.
Yeah.
The thing,
So
I look at that and I just face value. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just gun shop guy. I like guns. That's literally all I'm about. But I look at it at face value and say, how is this not going to get sued into oblivion? Just because, I don't know, the current laws that are currently happening or being litigated, seems like you delay something, they're going to get sued for it, and it's going to cost the state another bunch of money.
Yeah.
the only problem though is in the state you have different groups, right? So at the Denver Capitol, you have the very liberal Democrats, and they're really running the issues. Your normal Democrats aren't happy about it either because they're gun owners too.
Right.
And then you have rural Colorado, like the Republican side, that they're not happy about it either. Independents, unaffiliated. But what happened is because nobody was paying attention to who was being voted into these offices, that now you have a group up there that they can do whatever they want, and it doesn't matter. They don't care because you have a attorney general for the state of Colorado that just doesn't care. I mean, he is paid for, he is bought by the very leftist liberals in this state, and you're just not going to get there. And you have Bennett, who he's going to do whatever he's told. He's not, I won't say what I think, but I will tell you, he's one of those people. He's not going to think for himself on these matters. Right. So you're going to end up with this year probably even more. I think gun issues. California just pushed an issue against Glocks, saying that no more Glocks because they can be changed into, well, anything can be changed into something that's fully automatic if somebody has something illegal in their mind to do. The problem is, though, is that I can see every time there's a gun legislation come up across the United States, we jump on board, and it's something we start doing. Yeah, copy and paste. And they know they have the numbers to push it through. So I think that's what we can kind of see coming this year, and how we deal with legislation.
Well, you can even look at it too. Is a lot of these are appointed individuals, not even elected. So
absolutely
appointed by 40 instead of elected by their constituents. So they're not even speaking on constituents' behalf anymore. It's by those that appointed them to keep them there.
And there's a reason why. So what happens is you have to go through committees. That's what we call the kill committees, or they push bills through. Those committees are made up of people that are put on them that are appointed, right? And we were dealing with some people last year. I'm like, I don't think these guys could get elected. I don't think any voter would look at them and say this is a good pick, even on the Democratic side. They were so liberal. And the problem was that they were being put into those groups because the Democratic Party could then tell them how to vote, right? They didn't really have a decision. I mean, you've got, on this side of the state, you go farther down, you have Dylan Roberts, who's pretty logical thinking, right? But he gets in arguments with his own group. So why would they put somebody that's a logical Democrat in a position where they could pass a bill or fail a bill that was just crazy? So I think that's what you're seeing, right? It's those appointed individuals you talked about, because I think there was 21 of them last year that were on these, and they're all on these committees.
They're being manipulated, puppeted, basically to do what they're being told to.
It's weird to think that they don't look at the logic side. And what I kind of like about your position is the law enforcement side. You see it, right? That you see how these things affect your county, the state. That's all front and center. I mean, it's apparent that there's an issue.
Well, I mean, it's the common working man and woman, right? When you get off work, you go home and you expect somebody that you voted for to put in office would make great decisions for you. The problem in Colorado, though, is that, so many people tuned out during the last elections, and we always think, that'll never get passed. And then we wake up one morning and go, holy smoke, it got passed. How am I going to deal with it now? And really what you're dealing with is you're killing the working environment throughout Colorado. You've got over 1,000 gun shops already shut down. You've got ammunition sales are down across the board. So the state identified that they believed it was only going to be 50,000 people that would be impacted on that. Well, I don't know how many people you have in your county, but if you're tracking 25,000 purchasers of firearms and ammunition, that affects your store a lot.
Greatly.
And then for my county, I have one of the highest density populations for gun firearms ownership, right? I'm like, well, that's like a drop in the bucket next week for me. And now all of a sudden I have to use your tax-paying dollars to pay for that too.
Mm-hmm.
So on top of all this stuff, it's an industry now that is dying in Colorado. We used to have a really big gun industry in the state.
Yeah.
You got Denver Bullets. You've got all these manufacturing capabilities. You've already lost Magpul. How many jobs is that? So now you have a failing economy in Colorado. You're $1.2 billion in debt. And now we just took out another 1,000 gun shops.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom and pop, big organization, didn't matter. And now we're going to cut, all those other manufacturing capabilities because we're going to give them another excise tax to even produce. So, and on top of that, we're charging them to bring all the product into the state to even build if you're a manufacturing capability. And now you have CBI that's going to come in and they're going to go through your books, or well, they can't actually go through your books. I think the federal firearms have already come back and said, nope, you're not looking at our stuff. So now you got to file other forms.
Yeah, additional paperwork
to meet that need. So
but they can drive their Bearcats down and use that, make a show of it.
And that's a state organization. Under state law, you can't have a state policing organization. And now all of a sudden you have a Colorado Bureau of Investigation saying, hey, we're here to help you as a little local law enforcement.
Right.
We have 2 Bearcats. We have SWAT teams now. And I look at it and go, I can't get evidence based on a case in Colorado for months and months, up to a year, and have it tested.
Right.
But yet now we're going to throw money into you having tactical units for who? I don't need it. I have my own.
Right.
It's hard. It's expensive. It's a lot of liability to keep up on these organizations. You can't tell me the state, with all the things they're doing wrong, is actually going to do well with this.
Yeah. And we're already on a federal, level being, handheld to make sure that we're doing the right thing by the ATF. We don't need the CBI or the FDD, the Firearms Dealer Division, to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Like, we're already federally doing the right thing. So it's the excise use of money for no reason.
Well, I think that's the issue in Colorado, right? The state's not needed to do so many things. And the problem is, every time they produce something, like a new organization or a bigger organization, it's more tax money.
Yeah.
And you go more in debt. They just did a special session, and what they do? They spent more money. Right? They're supposed to go into special session, not create as much issues, and now they're going to tax your overtime more.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a problem, and voters have to wake up and start looking at things, and we as normal people just got to go, we're done. We're done doing this.
That was actually really an interesting thing that, I didn't, it took me a little bit to, now being here looking into it, is there's a lot of people that aren't voting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are, I'm going to say, chiming at the gun counter.
Yep.
But aren't voting. Hunters.
Yeah.
Gun owners. A lot of people. It's a significant amount. Significant amount that aren't voting. I mean, I don't know. I look at our district here for the House district, and it's not like they're winning by an exorbitant amount.
Right.
They're winning by a couple thousand.
Yeah. And for me, I grew up coming down to this area and all over Colorado, Western Colorado, because I'm a 3rd generation Coloradoan. So it's, understanding where you hunt, where you fish, where you do all those things. I mean, I had cousins down there. So you have all that, and it's changed drastically, right? And the thing about Colorado is, Colorado, I don't think, is a blue state. No. It's not a red state. I think Colorado is more an issue state. We're going to vote on issues rather than other things, and not so much party lines. That's why you have so many independents, so many unaffiliated, because they've left the parties because they were just tired.
Yeah.
But the problem is that they left a lot of their votes behind too. And I talk to people all the time, and they'll tell me, well, and this happened during the last election cycle prior to Trump, when we had so many Democrats go into office, is that the issue was, everybody was saying, well, they're going to steal my vote anyways. What's the difference? Well, what the difference was, when you didn't vote, they won so many seats that now this is why you're losing your Second Amendment rights. This is why you have an immigration issue in this state that's now tragic.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I can talk a little bit more about that too. But all those things on your taxes and why we pay so many fees is all because of that.
Yeah.
That is a stance that you've been pretty big on. Can you give me a better understanding of the 287G issue?
Yeah. So I'll give you a kind of a broad picture of this. So the 287G program is a program that I signed with the federal government that basically says my deputies become federal agents when it has to deal with the jail programs.
Okay.
So if a local law enforcement officer arrests somebody, say it's for sexual assault,
Okay.
they're then taken to my jail and they tell them that they're from another country, because part of our question is, where were you born? Well, if you were born in another country, that gives us what's called a clue. Right?
Yeah.
Now, legislator doesn't want us to have a clue. They just want us to, I don't know what they think. They're always asking us, well, why do you ask them that? Well, we ask everybody that, you know, or origin, where were you born? Colorado Springs, Salida, where were you born?
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Building a dossier.
Yeah, it's just building information about you. So if we have to go try to find you again, we can.
Yep.
So in that, then we identify, well, it's Chihuahua, Mexico. All right. Well, then that would trigger my ICE 287G, who's a deputy, now flips her hat around, and they are now an ICE agent because this person's committed a crime. So then they run them through an ICE system and say, hey, you know what? This guy's actually wanted by us for another sexual assault in Nevada. Okay. We've been looking for this person. Or they crossed the border and they were sexually trafficking people before, right? There's another clue. We don't want this person in our community. So what happens is then we hold them. They would slide into the back of my jail. They're transferred to ICE custody through my deputy, and we hold them for ICE under ICE contracts. Well, that's because they're wanted by the U.S. government for something major. So what state of Colorado is saying, well, no, you have to stop right there. They can't be held by you. We're going to release them back to the community they came from. Well, let me ask you something. If you know that there's a sex offender living in your community, it shows, right? That, well, you can't do that with somebody that's from another country, because that would be giving ICE the understanding that this is a person they're looking for. So what Polis and the Attorney General and everybody's doing is they're creating the issue to where they can get more funding out of the Democratic Party, and I'll tell you why and how that happens. So if I take this person and I don't allow my prison system to release to ICE, these are bad people, and I hold them, and then when I release them, they go back into their communities through Denver and different places. Mm-hmm. And then the state of Colorado says, hey, we don't have these people. You got to go find them on your own. So then it forces ICE to go into those communities, because that's their last known addresses, to then identify them. But then they run into somebody else in the family organization because they're dealing with like 10 people in the house. Mm-hmm. That's what happens when you have what's called an encounter for them. So they encounter that person, and now they, by law, have to deal with everybody, right? So then the state of Colorado comes back and, I can't believe you went into their home and you arrested all these people, right? Hey, Democrats, we need you to fund us to fight the federal government on this. So it's more of a driving funding back to the Democratic Party by saying, oh, these people are being taken advantage of. You're going to their communities. Mm-hmm. Well, if it was a true leader of Colorado, if the governor was smart to do, he would get on a plane. He would go to D.C. He'd meet with Trump administration. He'd go, hey, you know what, Mr. President? I'm going to take all of my folks that are in prison from other countries. We're just going to hand them over to you. We'll bus them to the border for you. You can pick them up there. Mm-hmm. And then that would stop any of these families from being encountered. Right? And these are good men and women that are here to work. I have no issues with that. I think they should be able to work. But then you sit down and you go, listen, we want to speed up the way we do our immigration standards so that we can identify that these are good people. They're here to do work, because we need labor force in this state, right? Yeah. We have to have it. So all of a sudden, you've solved the problem. There's no more issues. And now we don't have this huge national media thing where they're taking away funding from us. And what's really being done is it's kind of holding your cards and making people pay for it and really pushing the election and trying to make more money out of it than it is actually trying to help these good people down here. And I actually met with 100 pastors of Denver, and I gave this story of a 68-year-old woman that we encountered at one of our marijuana grows. She had come across the border. She's sewing bags of marijuana shut in dog food bags. So my deputies deal with her. We say, hey, man, we're not going to arrest you. You're 68 years old. We're going to work with you to get you. And she goes, no, you have to arrest me. I cannot not be arrested, because if the cartel finds out that you put me back, they think that I'm working for you now. Oh. And they will rape my daughter and they will murder my family. And so I have to deal with this. So ICE was her only safeguard to say, hey, I've been encountered by ICE and I'm being sent home. I'm being deported. I want to self-deport. So when she's deported back, guess what? She's with her family. Yeah. What people don't realize is that we are creating the umbrella in the state of Colorado to have these people victimized constantly. And that's the sad part is they're being used as political pawns, and nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to deal with it.
Yeah.
So when you go up and you try to talk to these people
This is
about
huge.
this,
Yeah.
what I just said is enough to have them just throw me out of a room. Going,
Yeah.
You're so full of it. That does not happen. I'm like, it does every single day. So that's the hard part, right? Because politicians don't want to talk about it because they could lose their jobs. But what they don't realize is that you're helping victimize people. And the left, they believe this is the funding mechanism that gets them all the millions of dollars they need to get a wiser in office or the other guy in office. You know,
Wow.
so that's the issues.
What about many months ago, the director of ICE, Holman talked about this almost to a T and said the safety aspect of releasing these people and creating ICE now having to go into these communities and doing warrants and stuff like that. I look at it and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. You just, hey, here he is.
Yeah.
Committed a crime. Here you go. Here you go, ICE. Makes it safer for everybody.
Well, we do it with every other federal organization.
Yeah.
We do it with other sheriffs. I do it with parole. I do it with probation. So there's no problem there.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess that's the issue we're running into. It's very political.
Yeah. And they're able to play on the strings of the continuing liberals of like, this is inhumane. They're attacking, they're going after these communities and, you know, removing children from families, and instead of solving the problem, removing that person and saving a bunch of taxpayer money in the long run.
Well, that's the problem. Colorado needs leadership at a level that doesn't mind going and getting dirty and being upfront about it. And I think that's the thing I saw even going to the legislature. How many politicians that are now running for office went and fought for the Second Amendment?
Right.
Not a one. I see one of them, right? And even you could buy their vote because everybody's talking about political capital. I'm going to give you something in return for something else, right? So with all those things being done, how do you trust them? I don't anymore. That's the problem I've run into, is that not all, but a lot of people, and a lot of people running, they didn't get in front of that train, you know, or take those hits. I mean, that's politics today, right? It's easier to let it slide and just see if I can slide by and get into a spot because, oh, everybody loves me. Everybody wants to.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know that's true.
I think this jumps right into what you said on Dan Gates' podcast of like, I want my Colorado back.
Yeah.
And like what you've kind of gone through, it kind of gives us a taste of like what you believe Colorado needs to be or was. But can you expand on that just a little bit more?
Yeah. You know, it's, we all have an American dream of what we want to see America. And it's the same thing for Colorado, right?
Yeah.
I did pre-sold homes at one time. I'd build homes, sell homes with my partner, and I would buy a lumber pack for a 1,200 square foot home. That 1,200 square foot home lumber pack was about $35,000. I go to buy that today, I'm at $135,000.
Holy
right?
smokes.
So how do I take the Colorado dream of owning your own home, being self-sufficient, letting your kids grow up in a community that you love, that they can ride their bikes in the streets, or down the streets. You can go out in the woods and you can camp, you can hike. I don't need to have, an armed escort to do so.
Right.
How do you get that when I've got house costs that are so much? In my county alone, my average house cost was $650,000. How does a normal worker in Colorado who can probably get a loan up to $250,000 to $350,000 at most, and that's the high end of what they can make and what they can pay for, all of a sudden have to get a balloon mortgage and have to do a $650,000 home mortgage just to get into a starter 1,200 square foot home? That's the issue of what I see is what do we want in Colorado, right? I want the kids can go back to 4-H, they can do shooting sports, they go to school and it's not so politicized and it's not so tearing them apart from, I don't care either side, right? Both sides. The fact that we're not so divisive on things, the fact that we aren't the second highest crime rate in the United States. If I send my kids out, I don't expect them to get mugged in Denver, right? Have you walked down 16th Street in the last few years? I used to go up there and you could bounce from bar to bar, right? Before you hit a ball game. And then you get a ball game, you jump on the train, you get back to your car. Try jumping on a train now without having a serious issue occur on the train. Try to go downtown and eat something. Most places are boarded up. And that's not if you're tripping over somebody on the side of the sidewalk sleeping. Or there's now porta toilets sitting out there so nobody craps on the sidewalks. But
That
they're
solves the
using those
problem,
as yeah,
right?
right, yeah. Now they live in the porta toilets. You know, I go, these are the decisions that people are making that are destroying Colorado, and nobody wants to tell them this is illogical. There's no way this works for Colorado. The fact that our water needs to stay in Colorado, not be sold down the river, literally. The fact that your hunting rights need to be able to be passed on to your children. How nice would it be for local hunters to actually get a license nowadays, right?
Yeah.
I think that CPW does need to be separated from Division of Wildlife. It needs to be two separate things. I think that, our folks that are doing outfitting should be able to have outfitters. I don't even know that we can have outfitters at this point. But those licensing should be gone through outfitters through the state instead of what we're doing is just kind of helter-skelter. Everybody gets a license.
Yeah.
I met a guy last week, never hunted in Colorado in his life. I've been putting in for a moose tag for quite some time. He's an out-of-state hunter. He puts in for a moose tag this year, gets a bull moose tag immediately. How is that a lottery system?
Once in a lifetime.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime hunt.
Yeah.
A Colorado hunter can't get it, but somebody from out-of-state paying a larger amount because the state is now using our animals, our resources, a funding mechanism for their bad decisions.
Yes.
So how do I protect 900 sources or animals, right, with an organization that is now being driven by money to, and how do you become, if you live a self-sufficient life, right, or you want to get further off grid, or you want to, how can you even do that? And maybe that's not the way I want to live, but maybe it's the way you want to live.
Right.
So why in Colorado don't we go back to allowing people to live the way they want to live in Colorado? Right. So that's I want my Colorado back.
Yeah.
I want my Colorado back in the fact that I can live the way I want to without so many regulations that I just can't do anything right.
Yeah. And that'll affect everybody that uses the land the way they want to, like you're saying, the way they want to backpack, where they want to bike ride, they want to fish on the river or a high altitude lake, or hopefully draw a tag for a goat or a sheep or...
Absolutely. And look, you've got so many state parks in Colorado now, right? I've got one where they want to do ring the peak, around the peak. They want to have a walking trail. Sounds like a good idea, right? I wouldn't mind it so much. But here's the thing. The state wants to charge you for even being on it. Like everywhere else in the state now, where the state's wanting to charge you excessive fees for all these different things because they're trying to make enough money to, pay for all these things that they're doing. So your public lands are being taken from you, and the fact that you're paying for every single bit of it now. Try getting a camping location somewhere in Colorado. What's the cost for it now?
Yeah.
And then the other side, you may wait weeks because there's so many people getting into it. Right. If you are from Colorado, you should be able to get the first dibs on those camping spots. So there's all those types of things that really is being taken away because it's all funding now.
Yep.
Do you think the fee-based stuff is an obvious avoidance of Tabor?
Oh, absolutely, right? Because here's the thing. I don't know how many of you got the tax returns back last year, but you got it back for being a safe driver, not having a DUI. Well, you know why that was? It was in disguise of not showing you had to pay so much Tabor, they had to pay it back. Right?
Yeah.
So they got to keep doing these special things so nobody understands really, well, they've taken way too much in taxes. So when you go down to Department of Motor Vehicle or your local clerk's office and you get your license plates, what happens when you're a day late? It's $100 fine, right? And then on top of that, say I had an old farm truck. I don't drive it ever. It sits at my house. So I went in to get it registered. Well, I think it was a trailer. I had the truck too, but I had a trailer I never used. It was a box trailer. I bought it for a use. I didn't get to use it for it. It sat in my driveway for 2 years. So I'm thinking about selling it, so I got to get it registered. So I go down to register it. It cost me $3,500 when I bought the trailer. It cost me $600 to register it because I had to pay for the last 3 years of back taxes on it.
Oh, wow.
And then the fees on top of that. So, really, how does that work, right? If I'm not putting it on the roadways to use and it's not being, I'm not consuming something from Colorado, why should I have to pay that kind of money for that?
Right.
It's actually an interesting subject. I was talking to somebody just recently, and they were talking about other states that do a lifetime trailer license. Like
for small trailers?
For small trailers. Just like, hey, you pay it once and that was it. And I was like, wow, that actually kind of makes sense. The thing we talked about licensing-wise more recently with the local county commissioner was ATVs, UTVs on county roads. And a big discussion that came up from that was gas tax, I guess, is a huge issue.
Yeah.
It seemed I understood the concept of roads being torn up, not being able to support it. Is Teller County a county where UTVs, ATVs are allowed?
Yeah, they are in some roads. Yeah.
Some roads.
I think it goes much deeper than that even, right? So I think if you're utilizing something the county and the taxpayers are paying for to ride a ATV or do whatever, I get it. There should be some type of a fee for that. I don't have a problem with that. I think when it gets into now it's excessive. It's just like now you got to register your ATVs. Why do I got to register an ATV? I don't even ride on a county roadway. I get a Forest Service sticker, right? It used to be I could just get a Forest Service. You can't do that now. You've got to actually register that as a vehicle. So I'm paying taxes on that. I think for me and what I'm seeing is that it's just getting out of control. And anytime you deal with a state entity or it just gets out of control. The thing about it too is that we're taking all local control away from local officials. Right now, you have an electrical code, a building code that is now being all pushed down your throat by the state of Colorado out of Denver. You have what's called the WUI. And if you don't identify the WUI out, you become a place where you're not going to get insurance anymore too.
Yeah.
So there's all these things that used to be local officials would handle at their local levels. And then now the state's saying, no, you have to follow this. Well, do I really? Because if I'm following a building code, and we have set forth that as a county that we're using 2004 building code, because our buildings are all built in like the early 1900s. So do I have to bring that all the way up under state code to be in 2025? I might as well bulldoze a building because I'm never going to get there.
Yeah.
Whereas counties now, unless they adopt, a code, then you get stuck with this. But the state tells them what parameters they have to utilize it in. I think that's getting out of control.
Right.
If a county, because of its voting base, decides, I don't even want a building code, well, then that's what you want as a building. Now, if a bank wants to come in and buy something, it has to be inspected, and everybody's doing that.
Right.
But it's getting to a point where your local officials don't have any control, because really what they want is control in Denver is going to control all local counties throughout. Look, they were trying to take away sheriff's authorities in the last few years.
Yeah.
That we couldn't talk about First Amendment, or it was a First Amendment issue for us, but you couldn't talk about bills anymore. Well, they want to silence us. That's why. So if they continue to be able to silence your local officials, both Democrat and Republican, well, then who gets to say on everything that happens? You don't, because you're not voting in a lot of those folks, especially if they're appointed. Your local officials are your line of defense on how you see fit for your taxpayers' money to be used.
So you got to vote.
Gotta vote.
You got to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back because you originally said when they had a 200% attrition rate.
Yep.
And so running businesses, being successful at that, and seeing what was happening there, did you see an immediate attraction to the jobs again once you started seeing results in the field, that you built up and retained those employees, those undersheriffs, those people that wanted to work?
Yeah. So you do. And that's through taking politics out of a job, right? Because what kills organizations, both local, county, government, businesses, bad management, and then it's allowing too many politics within an agency, right? So allowing people to go back to work and do the arrests that they need to do and do their job to what they see as a fulfillment for them means you keep people.
Yeah.
And then also we increased salaries, we increased benefits, we increased all those things because they were still from what we saw in 2003, 2002. So all of a sudden they were given, real raises and then brought back up to where they should be. And all of a sudden we're keeping people.
Yeah.
And I think that started a trend in the whole state too.
Yeah.
Because in the last few years, you saw a lot of law enforcement leaving the state. They just didn't want to do it anymore. Look, they have to wear a body camera. Now, a lot of people talk about, well, the cameras are a great thing. Well, kind of yes and no, right? Now everybody gets to be a Sunday quarterback. Yeah. And now judges are saying, if you don't have one, we're not going to. So what's happened is law enforcement's losing its ability to be looked at as truthful. Right? So it makes it really difficult when you in your job are always being told that you're not truthful enough we have to look at the camera footage. And I would love to see it to where legislators have to wear a camera, right, to see what they're talking about. Because I've seen some crazy stuff. But and I think for law enforcement too, now you have a state of Colorado that's suing under the Attorney General an actual deputy directly in Mesa County.
Yeah.
So, and now you have a Colorado Bureau of Investigation where they passed last year. They can reinvestigate, reopen up any case that you want if it has anything to do with a gun throughout Colorado. So if you're in a shooting, your district attorney office says, "Hey, this was a justified shoot. We're not going to look into this anymore." The Attorney General, through Colorado Bureau of Investigation, can come in and reopen that case and then look at it again. So you go through all of these things as a local law enforcement officer, because if you're in a shooting, you are going to go through the gamut to make sure everything you did was right, both internally, externally, the district attorney's office, and then once they've all made a decision that you did the right thing, now because it becomes a political issue, because another county sees it different or state sees it differently, they can come and reopen up that whole case again, and now you got to go back through the whole bit now. And it's politically driven.
I was going to say,
right?
Is that like the political circus versus actual, like, there's something wrong with this?
It is. And then the other side of it too, say you're a citizen that has a shoot, you're going to go through a lot.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, because it's creed, it's color, it's sexuality, it's whatever that the state of Colorado deems is that, that might be an issue, they can reopen that case up through them. So your local law enforcement doesn't matter anymore. Your local district attorney's office determination doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
The state of Colorado gets to come in and do what they do. Now, hopefully there's good enough people that are decide, but do you really want to go through that much? That's
and
another layer.
Yeah.
I think that's a concern I have when they pass that bill. I know it was a concern of most district attorneys. Yeah. And it just is, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just making people relive probably the worst day of their life over.
Well, and talk about resources, right? So if I, at a local level, I'm paying detectives to look into this, you're paying prosecutors to look into this, you got attorneys involved, everybody's looking into it. And then you have a state with a whole nother layer coming in. I'm going, are we not misusing layers and upon layers of taxpayer dollars?
Right.
When we should be trusting that local organization. Because if not, the FBI actually does a review of every single law enforcement shoot that ever happens, regardless, across the nation.
Yeah.
So they already look at those things. So all of a sudden now, why do we need this extra layer? And I think that's an issue with Colorado.
Yeah.
I'd be curious, speaking of funding body cameras and that type of stuff, how much money are we talking about for like a small agency, let's say 10 people, to get body cameras up and running? What are we talking about?
The infrastructure, the offloading, the time, like it's not just a small piece of equipment. It's
So here's my office. Probably 80 some officers have it right across the agency. So that was $500,000 over 3 years upfront, right? And the state of Colorado say, "Oh, we'll help you out with this." No, they don't. They're not helping you, because once they get past that initial buy-in with you, it's on your own.
Yeah.
So you pay for that. So you kind of drive that down to what the costs are for a small 10-man agency. You're probably still $20,000 a year, right? But here's the problem that you get into with that: they don't have the IT infrastructure.
Right.
So hopefully they're doing it in the cloud system. But I saw a lot of agencies where they lost the data and now they're being looked at and sued over. And then you got courts looking at them going, well, you did that on purpose. Heck, now if I get a camera that goes down the middle of something, the courts want to basically say that we did something wrong. And these things are prone to all kinds of problems. They're not, none of it's perfect. It's an in the cloud system, but you got to pay for storage costs, right? And then, so as storage starts to increase, now the district attorney's office has to then take that same data we have, and we have to house it forever. Now they have to house it. So now their cost for it also goes up because they're having to pay for that. So in the 4th Judicial District, you have El Paso County Sheriff's Office, all the other police departments within, my sheriff's office, my police department's within, because it's 4th Judicial District. It's one of the largest in the state.
Wow.
The amount of data that we buy and have to pay for, they have to now do the same amount.
Oh my God.
But you're paying twice for it, right? So, all those cameras going in. And what strikes me funny is that Colorado's saying, well, the next direction is we need to build data centers because we want to increase jobs. We want to, but yet we don't have any power to do it because we don't have enough power. So at what point does the need grow so much that we can no longer sustain the body camera system? And who's now at fault for that?
Right.
Because they always look at us because judges can't be sued. District attorney's officer are lawyers. The only people we're going to sue are the cops.
Low man on the
Yeah,
totem.
low man on totem pole.
Wow.
And we get sued all the time over this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Unreal.
What, sorry, just invested here. What would you say was the very first driving force of the body cam?
I think at the time it was a great idea. I think because you could identify whether somebody was lying about what their interaction with law enforcement or, those things were all good. But I think as anything that's good in life, then the issues start to come. And some of those issues we're starting to see is that it used to be by statute, a law enforcement officer's word was, good in court. It's not anymore. The other side of it that happened is that if these things break down, they throw out cases. Now they're talking about if we do a search warrant on a house, we now have to keep the thing on running the whole time.
Okay.
Well, that's huge amounts of data. And these things, the batteries don't last that long because it just is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a mechanical device.
You already have so much equipment on you to begin with, and to add an extra
too.
battery pack to run your shift.
Yep.
If you're, oh man.
So, is there like a charging port in all vehicles, or are you providing a charging port at home for your deputies?
A lot of these have a docking station that you use.
Okay.
Right. Some of them, like mine, which are more phone based, have the charging piece.
Okay.
But it's like your phone after it gets to so many years,
Mm-hmm.
you got to go buy new stuff, right? And the upfront cost is not near what it is to replace something. And then say you have to switch vendors again because technology's changed and now they want to see these certain things. Like ours download automatically when they come to the office. It just downloads through Wi-Fi, which is good. But what happens when somebody starts being able to break in and steal your stuff, or it's just kind of interesting on what happens with all these things, and we're starting to see that. So it's just hard. And like we have a server that it downloads to. Because I don't, the cloud's great and all, but do we really trust everything? The military is moving further away from the cloud because it can be jeopardized depending on who owns it.
Right.
And then, we've got a server, but after 5 years, a server you got to start looking at. And so we've got servers starting to go down. So you got to pay, $20,000 to get it back up and running. So it's just a constant cost.
Yeah.
And exponentially, it just keeps rising every year. And then the fact is that if you can even get the components for some of this stuff, because it's coming from China, and not everything is great and easy to get. So, there's just a lot of factors I think that are coming about with this stuff as it grows in age and it gets older.
It's hard for a small agency to then even budget for their training schedule and gun use and firearms to be proficient, let alone budget for something that could be unknown. That if this was $1,000 piece of equipment and now it's going to cost us $1,200 in the next 2 years, or we have to upgrade sooner, and now we have unexpected, going to the commissioners or going to the council to ask for more money for those.
And what's sad is, and what I think is the hardest thing that I deal with on a daily basis, is that I could put another 5 guys on the road for what I pay for this thing.
Oh, wow.
The other side of it too is if I'm down a camera, he can't go out or she can't go out. I can't have her with it. Yeah. They can't do a traffic stop. They can't go to a scene. They can't. So you have to have extras all the time. So you can't just buy just enough. And then it goes down to, you can switch one deputies with the other. So this is all stuff we deal with on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
I'm going, you can't do that because they need to have their own, because you're mix and matching tapes or video, and it's just crazy.
These are all real world consequences for legislation being handed down or policies being created with no skin in the game whatsoever.
Well, now we're talking exactly about what's happening in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Because at the state legislature, there's always these great ideas on how we're going to do things.
Yeah.
But nobody looks at, and that's why we go up there as experts in our field to talk to them about that.
Yeah, the stakeholders.
As stakeholders, right? But they don't want stakeholders. We did it with an 03 bill, right? There wasn't one law enforcement organization that went forward and said, this is a great idea. No. In fact, every single one of them said, this is a bad idea. Mm-hmm. And you had state legislators going, well, our stakeholders are saying yes. So it's going to the governor's office saying, they're saying yes. And we're all screaming, no. And then you have counties that are sending letters to the governor's office saying, we don't want this. This is crazy. We can't do this. And then you have, however many in the House, however many in the Senate. And then you have a governor of Colorado going, we're going to sign it anyways. We don't care what you think as law enforcement. We don't care what you think as a stakeholder. We don't care what you think as a taxpayer. We don't care. And I think that's the hard part that I was struggling with.
Yeah.
We watched it.
Yeah.
All of
We
it.
watched it.
Yeah.
Testified on it. It literally, we just watched them just
Railroad. Yeah.
railroad that
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yep.
I just can't imagine the idea, like you said it before, like the stakeholders, like who are they? Who can they be held accountable for this mess that we've been put into? And why are you saying that these stakeholders were part of this and can't name them, don't know who they are, don't know, how vested they are in the system, or if they're just not actually doing that process?
Yeah.
So it makes you question, like, yes, we hear you, but we're moving forward anyway. Or no, we don't care what you say, but we're going to be the first ones to call you when somebody's at my door, in a mask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a major issue. Colorado right now, with the stakeholder stuff, with the legislative body, it's just a major issue.
Mm-hmm.
And my hope is that it can kind of change around. But and here's the other thing too. I hear governor candidates say it all the time. Well, we're going to take the Senate, we're going to take the House, we're going to get enough seats in there. I don't think that's happening that way. I think Colorado, and here's what I've seen across Colorado since I've started this, was that we put so much money into federal candidates. We put so much money into a presidential race, which was important. But the problem is people didn't invest in Colorado.
Yeah.
Right? So even as a candidate, you know how hard it is to get donations in this state, especially as a Republican? And the problem is I hear so often, well, we're going to do it after the primary. Well, then you've already lost. Because the problem in Colorado is that a Democratic candidate will go and he'll identify him to be a Democratic candidate. They immediately get funded through the Democratic Party. That party puts out through across the whole country, oh, we have a good Democrat that's going to run for office. Boom. They've got $1 million, $2 million. In Colorado, a Republican candidate goes, hey, I'm going to run. You may be a good candidate. And everybody's going, well, as soon as the primary comes around, I'll invest. You lost. Yeah. And that's why we keep losing. And that's why if it continues, we're going to lose. Because, all governor candidates now, the top four of us that are actually in there, we've all raised about the same money, right? And the problem is I'm going, well, it's like $40,000. And then you have other Republicans now going, well, you guys aren't raising. Who are you to tell me I'm not raising? We're out there every single day.
Yeah.
And we're competing with the state Republican Party. We're competing with the local officials that are running. We've got like 18 other Republicans running. And people have to identify who they're going to go with, and they need to get on it quick. Because the problem that we have is that you're going to go into a race where you've got to reach the hearts and minds of so many in Colorado. And, we have to get out and just meet everybody constantly. Yeah. It's just a constant pounding. Where these Democrats, they don't, right? They're already well funded. They already know. Yeah. And I think I'm good at being an underdog. I don't mind. I'm used to it. That's what I do in life. It's always been that person out front talking about these things. But I think in Colorado, it's unfortunate because you have career politicians that are trying to win election now because they see an opening, but they're not going to get the support of the locals, of just that local Colorado that goes, we're tired of career politicians.
Yeah.
And people that tell us they're going to do one thing and never get in front of it. And I think that's the hard part, right? It's a hard race to run. It's difficult.
I feel like that's really like Denver or the Front Range, as we've kind of associated it as, is they vote on stuff that affects us tremendously. Yeah. As business owners, as just rural Colorado, that really doesn't apply here.
Yeah.
The one that I feel like is a thorn in our side is the 72-hour wait to purchase a firearm. I think a lot of people don't realize that we have customers that drive hours because they don't have a local gun shop. They come here and maybe they haven't bought a firearm in a while, but their grandson's turning 15 and he's going to go on his first hunt, so they want to get a rifle. And you tell them 72 hours and they're like, what? And they say, we have to drive back here again. And not that driving back to Salida is that bad of a thing, but I mean, for some people, that's a big deal.
Even offering, oh, we'll ship it to your local shop. There isn't one. Like, they've shut down. Like, that's why we're here.
Yeah. And that's the problem in Colorado. What gets me, and probably gets you too, is that, well, bad people have now driven all the laws for good people to have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
So you can tell me as a sheriff that 72-hour period has made an impact on squat, because a bad person is going to do whatever they want. I've had them break into houses, steal a firearm, go down the road and kill their ex-wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that. There is no cooling off period.
Right.
The human mind just doesn't work that way. A crime of violence that's that quick is usually when somebody walks into something.
Mm-hmm.
That's when that occurs. It's not something that is, I had to drive all the way down to the gun store and buy a gun to then go and kill somebody. Come on, that doesn't happen.
Right.
If they're going to do that, they've either bought a stolen firearm. And 90% of Colorado, when you have an actual crime with a firearm, it's already stolen.
Yeah.
I sat through hours of listening to Sheriff Roybal at El Paso County. He's a good friend of mine. When he testified, they were trying to say that the shooting that happened in Colorado Springs, and I can't remember the name of the shooting, had been used with a firearm that was that they had given back. Well, then it comes out, no, he went and stole that firearm. And then you had Democrats going, "Are you sure?" And we're in a legislative hearing. I'm like, do you think he's stuttering? I mean, yes, he's sure. I mean, you can't tell him any different to make him give you a different answer. I mean, that's what occurred. But that's the craziness we see, right? Nobody wants to hear the truth as to what really happened.
The other thing too is, as a employee, I'm training my employees basically to understand how to dispose of a firearm, the proper procedures, to make sure that they understand. Like, if you're having a conversation with someone and they don't seem right, they are maybe purchasing for somebody else, a straw purchase, they don't seem mentally stable, or their conversation is chaotic or just not put together, we are the front line. That 72 hours does bupkis. When I have an employee call me and is like, "Hey, I need an executive decision on this. I don't feel comfortable selling this firearm today." I'm like, use your gut, deny them, tell them they're delayed. We'll have this conversation tomorrow. Smell alcohol, weed, whatever it is. Feel like they're tweaking on something. We are the front line, and they completely negate the fact that is where we need to focus. Like, the employees being trained and understanding how to communicate. Like, luckily I've got really good friends that do that type of training. So we've had the guys go through that type of training, additional FDD training that has that. And there's not a true emphasis on the liability now, that if we aren't trained on that, we can just do a background check and let them leave in 72 hours. We're liable for that person doing something dangerous, even if they are trained. But again, the employee, the ownership, like, we are the front line when it comes to, I don't feel comfortable with this. Come back tomorrow, and if you're not drunk, if you feel a little bit better and you still want to purchase this firearm, we'll go through this process completely.
Yeah.
Nobody ever talks about that part of it.
No. And that's the problem, though, is that you're getting a push from legislators that are so uneducated about what it is to purchase a firearm, have a firearm. And it's funny, I had a Democrat, he was telling me, well, I own a firearm. Well, that doesn't tell me anything, right? I'm like, whatever.
We hear that all the time.
But the thing about it is you are going to know your clientele better than anybody, right? Mm-hmm. You're that first line to say, I'm not selling to this guy.
Right.
And then the other side of it too is you've got forms that they've got to fill out. You've got all this checks and balances system set up, right?
Firearms forms, yeah.
And then you have the state of Colorado going, oh, no, we know better.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do you know better? That's the problem that I'm seeing from a state level. It's all these people that maybe they want to do the right thing, right? And I understand that. I get that. But that doesn't always transcribe into making everybody else have to do what you think is the right thing.
Right.
And I think that free thinking of Colorado is really what I want to see back. It's that logical decision making on, will you have nefarious people do things?
Absolutely.
Every single day, right?
Yeah.
People have freedom of thought. They're going to do things that they want to do. And it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to stop them from doing it.
Right.
But that's where a good person that's armed can stop them. when they have to,
True.
right? And I think that's why so many people, because here's the thing, they'll tell you, well, law enforcement is not going to get to your house in time, right? I think you have to take the first step in protecting yourself, and then
Or have
you
the freedom
hope
to choose to protect yourself.
to choose.
Right? Yeah.
And what they didn't really take an effect on the 72 hours too is I've had single moms who have been through domestic violence.
Right.
They wanted to purchase a firearm for their protection. They want to go through training. They want to do everything they can. But the thing is if she's 3 days out from getting that one piece of equipment that can protect their lives or family's lives, and she can't get it for 3 days, bad guys don't wait 3 days.
No.
And I'll be honest, restraining orders nowadays, nobody cares about, right? That is the problem, is that because we're not holding people accountable as law enforcement anymore, or can't,
Yeah.
because courts are releasing them the way Colorado set it up, with even prison sentences are being
Yes.
released. That is what is driving our crime throughout Colorado. But if we're not able to hold them accountable, then why do they think that this is going to stop somebody from doing it?
Yeah.
You know?
I literally just heard that today. Guy gets arrested for a DV, goes to jail. It's a immediate bond holding. He hears from a judge. Judge PR bonds him out, only to get the piece of paper that's supposed to stop that person from hurting another person.
Yeah. A written document for somebody that could care less and doesn't even want to read it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the problem, is that these safe things that we have put in place don't matter.
Right.
You know, and look, law enforcement officers across the state of Colorado, you have less and less,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's harder and harder for us to do something.
Right.
The question, then, kind of going back to the 72-hour thing, because it just it burns me, because it's the background check happens there, the discussion happens there. Nothing happens between the time of the background check to the time of pickup. Nothing. There's no new background check. There's no, there's nothing there. And it's untrackable data.
Right.
How do we know that the 72 hours has worked or has not worked?
Well, you know what's funny is it's a business, right? You're running a business. And it's just like buying a car. So somebody's out and about, they're in Denver, Colorado, but they live in Colorado Springs. And they're looking for a red sports car. So they find a red sports car in Denver and they go, wow, that's the car I've been looking for. So they walk up and the guy, and you say, hey, I want to buy this car. And you go, you got to wait 3 days. I got to make sure nothing's in your system for 3 days, right? Same kind of idea.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, well, I'm just going to go home and I'll order one then.
Yeah.
Yep.
So same thing happens in firearms,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes it's a spontaneous buy. I do spontaneous buys on firearms, right? I'm going, wow, I don't have that kind of rifle. I really like that bolt action and 6.5 Creedmoor because it's a Browning or it's. But you look at that and you go, but then I go, I gotta wait 3 days. I gotta drive another 170 miles. I'll just order one from my local gun shop, right? It'll be here in 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the hard part, what they don't. But I don't think they care.
Yeah.
No.
They don't care what hardships you're going through, and they don't care whether you stay open, because the ultimate goal of that bill was to close you down anyways.
Right. True.
I would agree. I think a large amount of our customer base is visitors to Colorado that come through, maybe see something collectible that they, don't have in their collection. And when you tell them 3 days, they're exactly like what you said. Oh, all right, never mind. I'm good.
Or even one of those like, oh, my gun shop can't get this. I've not seen one of these, and I've been through 3 states to get here, and you guys have it on the shelf. Yeah, I'll find it somewhere else, or I'll order it. Try and find it. Like, it's those types of situations. Like, understanding how business works is, it could be the heat of the moment. It could be the guy that is buying the first hunting rifle for his niece, nephew, or grandson. Whatever it might be, that just deflates the vision and the dream of living in Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Makes you think the stakeholder is the Giffords. Honestly, that's what I look at. Polis recently posted something about Gabby Gifford is his dear friend, and I looked at that and I go, wow, that makes a lot of sense of like what's currently happened in the state in the last few years on guns. I think a lot of people look at guns as a terrible, evil thing. I think a lot of people don't live the rural Colorado life, and don't understand our way of life out here. Whether that's the rancher, the hunter, the newfound homesteader that's having a prairie dog problem.
Yeah.
You know,
A fox problem, a
Uh,
coyote problem. Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
I just they don't see it. They don't see it. They don't know it. It's like the um, lock up your rifle in your vehicle civil penalty law.
I kind of got a kick out of it. It was like the dumbest thing I'd ever seen. Because I'm going, well, all they're going to do is steal the lockbox.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's they just see it now. Because,
Mhm.
everybody says, well, you got to hide it. How you going to hide a big old bulky box in the back of your car?
Right.
Especially if it's a rifle or it's a handgun or,
Yeah.
and then there's places where you can't take it in, right? So now I got to lock it in a lockbox and go in the post office and walk back out. And I'm like, it is made a nuisance. And the same thing when they started the one where you have to lock everything up in your house. Well, now I'm telling somebody in their own home what they can do and what they can't do.
Right.
And it's to stop, somebody from accidentally shooting themselves. Listen, not that I would ever say that, an accident isn't bad.
Yeah.
But it's an accident.
Right.
You have just as many possibilities of dropping a wine bottle and cracking and slicing your artery and you bleed out. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen. They're accidents. That's what happens.
Think of trees falling on houses, or even out in the wilderness, like a tree could fall. It's an accident. Things
Yeah.
are bound to happen.
The thing that's interesting about that, and I think that we really emphasize on, is gun safety. I think that's a big part of our business, is we do put on some non-firearm classes, firearm classes, things like that. And when you talk about educating younger people, so many people are, no, can't do that.
Yeah.
We can't educate them on that stuff. We can't have that in the schools, like hunter education or anything like that. And it's like that. I know for me, young kid, your buddy's like, hey, my dad's got a rifle.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm not supposed to touch those. I was educated.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, no, we need to go find an adult. Well, nowadays, it's like becoming so far removed that it's like,
Well, and I think it's everywhere we see it. We see it in First Amendment rights too, right?
Yeah.
Your right to free speech. What happens when schools start telling you can't have free speech anymore? You have to only talk about what we talk about.
Right.
And really that's starting to happen. And I think that's the concern you see across the country, right? It's not just one thing. It's anything to make life safer for you.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is maybe I don't want such a safe life that I don't get to live it too.
Yeah.
So I think people have to have the right to make decisions on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the law that says you have to wear a seatbelt. I got it. That's a safety thing. It works good.
Yeah.
I'm all about it. Seen too many crashes.
Yeah.
But I think on the other side of it too is you have to give people the ability to have free will
Mhm.
and what they want to do in their own homes.
Starts with education.
It starts with
anything.
education.
Why do you wear a seatbelt?
Well, I
Less
think-
likely to.
Yeah, I found in my career it's better to educate people than make laws.
Yeah.
Because right, you didn't wake up yesterday after the legislator and know you're going to have 750 new laws, right? Because who would think that actually happens?
Right.
And it happens every single year now in the last few years. So to me, it's better to educate people about what they can do for the safety mechanisms. And if there is an ability to educate, then there's not a need for a law.
Right.
And I think that's the hard part. Laws should be designed for people that just don't care,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's why we get criminal laws. It's not to educate you as to what you should do or shouldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
I think you already get that. Those are things that are ingrained in you from parents through, teachers and hometown you come from and all the different aspects of life.
Right.
So it's hard for me to agree with that. We just need to keep making all these laws.
Right. I think a lot of the things that stem from like our core focus is trying to build a community, make sure that community is educated and training, whether it's on creating a safe environment for your firearms to live, locking them up, or raising a garden and understanding what the pest control is going to be like, raising your chickens, as a homesteader, and understanding you're going to have some issues with predators coming in. So whether it's the lack of community that we see now, or those that don't want to be part of a community, that creates the need for those, laws to exist or to be introduced. You just don't have that connection to your neighbor as much as you do, and because everybody's worried about the law or worried about what they're going to say on social media, or instead of having a conversation and a debate and going forward with that as human beings, instead of, well, this is what I saw on the internet, or this is how I feel, and you're not respecting my feelings type thing. So
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things about community that really, your community is different than the Denver community, and this is where we're starting to see the rural-urban divide develop, right? Where you start pushing laws that are good for one area, but that way out here, you may not need those same laws, right? Because it's a whole different perspective. But the ability for the Denver area to understand what rural Colorado perspectives are too are important, because you are producers of certain commodities that then the consumers out of Denver use. And our ranching communities are getting hammered, and I think they're going to want to put more of a stop on agriculture and ranching communities, because they don't want them to use the water. It's the dust in the air. Because everybody thinks, oh, we can just bring all this stuff in from outside of Colorado, right? Well, why do you think our costs are so high? I passed your Legree's grocery store down here, a local type of producers. What if we have the ability to have reduced taxation for agriculture in the state of Colorado to sell to them, and for them to have reduced taxes based on the fact that they purchased from them? And that way our local producers are actually able to increase their profitability. Those are things that I think somebody without a business background that looks at Colorado and says, hey, you're my community, this is Denver based, that doesn't understand, that community can be very self-sufficient within its agricultural communities, its ranching communities. And that's the way it's always been in Colorado. Yeah. And I think that should be kind of where we're staying.
You look at it, and a buddy of mine lives up in Inglewood, and the farmers markets are awesome. It's great. And I'm like, yeah, they are great. Just think if that was every day. Your ability to get fresh produce instead of having to wait till the weekend and make an event out of it. And then you need a fresh tomato for the spaghetti that you're making, and you can go down to the market and get it because they grew it. Why are we stifling that to make it an event on the weekend for everybody in the state, and not make that something that's part of the community? You get to know that person. You get to understand they're raising the kids. You're showing pigs at the livestock show, and all these other things that build on that community. And it's an event instead of a community.
It's a way of life. Right? That's what Colorado's always been. It's a way of life, not just always looking at it as what it's being seen as. And I think that's the differences, right? That's a big difference in Colorado and where we go.
Do you see the amount of out-of-state money that's being pumped into the state itself? And I'm not saying nefarious or otherwise, but do you feel as though the potential for Colorado being a very large domino, if it falls truly, that other states will be behind that?
I don't know. I'm not sure I exactly understand the question to some degree, because there is money that comes from outside on an economy basis.
Right.
If it's to push our elections and do those types of things, you're starting to see more and more money coming from outside to control, really. But you always have. It's a business thing. It's economics. It's all those different types. It's oil and gas money, because we want oil and gas.
Yes.
Right. So they have to pay lobbyists to be able to keep their doors open. I think the gun industry is going to have to start hiring more and more lobbyists to keep their doors open. Law enforcement, we have lobbyists to keep our doors open. So you do have other states that are going, hey, we want lobbyists to protect our water rights. So there's all that happens on a daily basis at the Capitol. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. Right. I think if it's the new socialist agenda that's being forced upon Denver and then down to the rest of us through legislation, that is a bigger issue. I think that causes more problems when you start to see that. I think Colorado is general in politics. They limit how much you as a candidate can have anyways from the local population. So you can only give a $1,450 per check. Your wife can only give a $1,450 check. Companies can only give that. A lobbying firm can only give $500. So it drops it drastically. But you do have out-of-state money coming in too, right? And I think, if I'm a congressman and I've done a whole, I'm raised tons of money as a congressman, all of a sudden I can flip it over to my campaign at a state level too. It makes it hard for us to keep up with those things. So that's where you get the money from the outside coming in that really changes elections and changes value systems.
Okay. Thank you. You distilled my very broad question. Very good. So appreciate that.
Yeah.
One of the things I was going to touch on, since you are in law enforcement, where do you think the state of mental health or behavioral health in the state of Colorado is right now from a funding aspect?
I don't think we fund near as what we should. And here's why. You have one state hospital in the state of Colorado. It's behind on beds all the time. Here's the issues with the insurance side of it, is we're losing insurance companies through health issues constantly. We're losing doctors, hospitals. I mean, I think over the next few years, you're going to see a massive issue with our health benefits across Colorado regardless. But the mental health side is kind of interesting, because what happens in law enforcement is that we go in and we contact somebody. And you have all these state grants saying, hey, we want to put a rider in the car with you, a therapist. You're not going to be able to sustain that. That's a state-funded program. Counties can't fund it. We have a program in my county. It's called a MAPS program, where the ambulance actually does all that. We don't even get involved. We go to the home where somebody is having a mental health episode, but the ambulance comes. They're the ones that negotiate it. They're the ones that take them down voluntarily. So all of it's kept in that kind of and I think that's a much better system. It's a healthcare system rather than law enforcement attempting to interfere in the middle of this, and it creates more of an issue. We're not designed to be mental health workers.
Right.
But so your insurance only covers a certain amount. So you'll take them to a hospital. If they don't have insurance, they kick them loose because nobody's paying for them. Or even the transport fees you're getting, Medicaid pays, right? So the costs of mental health is going through the roof. And a lot of it is because of our drug issues. It's self-medicated. So you're dealing with the fentanyl epidemic. You're dealing with the methamphetamines. And so a lot of these folks that are in the homeless type of environment, a lot of their mental health issues are because they're self-medicating those issues. So I'll be quite honest, to me, you got to dry them out first. They got to get off of it. But we're putting them in our jails. You as taxpayers are having to pay for me to give them the drugs to take with them when they leave. So they're never drying out. They're never getting off of something. Because, I was once told, you have to get somebody that's hit rock bottom before they can build themselves back up from that. But what happens is we as a state are always medicating them to where they never hit rock bottom.
So you're enabling.
You're just enabling. So to me, we as a state are enabling behavior issues in our homeless populations, in our mental health populations, and we're not looking at it from a different perspective of how do we get them to be back and active in communities to where they're able to help and do those things. I think programs need to take a shift to where we can wean them off of that self-medication issues and then get them back into more of a productive ability, so it's not feeding on the state and local communities for funding it. Now, is that going to be easy? No, it's not going to be easy, because we have already created such a huge deficit in the state. It's got to be done, though. Something has to be done. And you hear people say it all the time, well, something's got to be done. Well, then let's get them off of it. Let's start getting into the mental health processes. Let's create more local response with mental health benefits and capabilities locally. If I'm going to give grants for something, I want to give it to organizations that are doing something within local communities, because rural Colorado has no capability to deal with mental health issues.
Zero.
So we need to work with mental health providers to create that in a community, but not be so much medicating them once they've come off of the self-medication issue that we're creating more of the gap that they cannot get back to. So I went to Bent County. Bent County is an interesting city. I was talking to the sheriff down there, and he took me through it. We actually have Fort Lyons that sits out there. It's a beautiful old federal military base, and they leased it to Colorado out for like $1 a day or something. But if you've ever been to Bent County in that city, there's nothing there. I mean, it's a very small, local, rural city. Maybe 500 residents to 800 residents. That's it.
Whoa.
but they put it in Fort Lyons. And what they do is they ship all of the homeless folks there from
where?
Denver and
What?
different places around Colorado. And they house them. They do all their health benefits. But these people leave there and they walk down to the local city. And they've had a drastic rise in mental health cases outside of the facility, breaking and enterings, drug use. All of these things have gone through the roof because these people are leaving there. And it's a mental health facility, kinda.
Yeah.
It's more for homeless encampments and medical treatments. But you got over 200 people that leave this thing. So, you almost have a population that's equal to the town coming down to the town and creating havoc and discontent throughout the whole community. If you ever get a look or get a chance to go down through there, take a look. It's mind-boggling what the state did. And you're using state money and resources to fund the whole complex.
Whoa.
So it's, those things are happening every day in Colorado and nobody even knows that those things are going on. And I want to give people a helping hand. I think that's great. But they also have to work for that helping hand sometimes too. If not, they'll never get a sense of pride to be able to do it themselves.
True. Yeah.
In your experience in Teller County, how's the fentanyl crisis hit you guys?
Well, it's hit us just like it hits everybody in Colorado. Right. So now if I test marijuana that's black market, it's immediately got fentanyl in it. I don't think young people know that these dealers are actually putting fentanyl in everything. We find it in methamphetamine, cocaine. We find fentanyl cut in with everything. So it has increased in epidemic that people don't understand. And I was talking to a young lady the other day, and the one thing I was telling her is because she was asking me about, well, it's legalized, right? Well, it is legal if it's purchased legally. It's not legal if you purchase it illegally.
Right.
And the other side of it too, if we test it, I would assume 90% of the marijuana we test is laced with fentanyl.
Holy cow.
So there is a big issue. I went up to the legislator 2 years ago. I fought safe injection sites.
Okay.
And they wanted to allow safe injection sites. As long as the city said we want it, the state would fund it. And then they would put it by schools. They didn't care. It could go in next to churches. It could go wherever they wanted it. And I remember sitting and testifying against it saying, you know what? Listen, you have overdoses, and they're saying, well, we got medical inside that help make sure that they don't overdose. We give them Narcan. We give them the medical treatment they need. And I'm going, well, all right, so you're legally attempting to kill somebody, and then you're bringing it back at them so they can buy more and come back in. And they said, well, we'll even test their drugs for them. I go, well, the problem is once you test that drug and it's an illegal substance and you hand it back to them, you're distributing an illegal substance. And you're a doctor, which means somebody should be pulling your license for doing it. And they couldn't get it. And they said, well, there's never been a death on site at a safe injection site. And I go, well, yeah, there can't be, because you cannot have somebody die without a doctor's identifying that they're dead. So what happens is you take them, you throw them in an ambulance because you're trying to resuscitate them. They drive away from there. Well, they died in the ambulance. They didn't die in my facility. The other impact is that, well, anybody that purchases it's off limits for law enforcement. So that means your drug dealers that are selling outside the place, it's off limits for us to do. So you get a young kid that goes, I want to try it. So they have the ability to walk in. It's now legal, basically, and you can try whatever you want, right? Because we're promoting it as a safe injection site, and it's a safe place. We got doctors there, so it must be safe to do. Well, we're increasing the amount of users, and we're decreasing all the laws. And this is what the legislature was talking about, right? Now that legislature, whose last name was Epps, she was the one that was pushing that. She was the most atrocious legislator I've ever dealt with in my life. But when you deal with that type of belief system, and fortunately it finally got voted down through the committee. Because even other Democrats were going, oh, wait, this sounds crazy.
Yeah.
But if nobody had testified to it, because it was doctors, it was people from other cities that were saying, don't do it. We did it. It's horrible. Detroit was one of them. I was up there. I was the only law enforcement officer except for a police chief from there. And I remember the Democrat that was trying to push it, one of the males there, he said, well, who are you representing when you're here? And I go, I and this chief police back here are representing 14,000 law enforcement officers telling you, no, it's not smart.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, well, I don't know that we can believe that. I'm going, fine. But that's the kind of behaviors you're dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So
uphill battle.
It is. And that is, I think, the cornerstone to the behavioral health issues we're experiencing throughout the state. Yeah.
Huh. That's because it's only on my mind because we're starting to see it more and more here. Arrests being made with big fentanyl, big methamphetamine. I mean, for our area, right? Like, this is, I think the other day it was like 470 something pills or something like that. And it's like, well, all this stuff is coming from somewhere, right? And it's all bad, not good. And it's just like, oh man, my previous career was 17 years as a paramedic. When I worked up here on the ambulance, this is the first place I ever worked where Narcan expired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other places that I had worked previously, it was daily use to, so it's very interesting to, see just the, I don't want to call it a downfall, but that's what I see it as, right? It's kind of the downfall of society, like right now, just bit by bit.
What bothers me is people don't realize where it comes from. It comes from a ship coming from China with precursors. It's going to Mexico or Canada. It's being produced there, placed into pill form or into a powder form, and then it's being brought into the United States. I mean, there's no other place it comes from, right? It's very simple. And why do they do that? To me, to some degree, there's the ability to destroy our country from within, and that's why it's being produced here and brought in. So,
do you feel like that, like the PR bonds and all those type of things, also play into that whole circle of just repetitive offense or repeat or recidivism is what they call it, I guess, or what?
Well, recidivism is a funny thing because the state of Colorado will tell you we have very low recidivism. So recidivism is actually a cause of when we convict somebody for a crime, they go to prison, they're immediately released into probation or parole, or local crimes into probation. Well, let's just take parole. So I convict you for 12 years for stolen weapons, a menacing, attempted murder case. You get to prison, 6 months later, they're going to release you on a parole because we don't want to keep you in prison.
Why?
Right? Well, because the cost of a prison is very expensive. So if I can cut the amount of inmates in our prison system, then I can cut the amount that the state's paying for prisons, right? So once they're released into parole, say this person goes out and commits another crime. What they do is, it used to be that they would take that person and then they would what's called reoffend, a reoffender, would then be placed back into prison to fulfill his whole term. What they do now is they go, well, we got to wait till after the county court case is over. So they run through another gun case at a local county level. The county then prosecutes them, takes them all the way through everything. And then the parole would look at him and go, you know what? He's on county charges. We're not going to reoffend him to prison. So then he commits another crime. Well, when they don't put somebody back in prison for that, it drops our recidivism. It shows that we don't have recidivism.
So it's a mess with the stats.
It's changing the stats. So I had a guy, he commits a burglary in I want to say Eagle County. Steals some guns, gets in trouble there. He then goes to up by Leadville, commits another burglary, gets caught there. He's now placed in a prison on this one. He gets out on parole when he commits this one. He then is still on parole. He goes to my county, commits 7 or 8 burglaries in a 2-day stretch. We catch him in the act of one. He takes off in the woods. He leaves his truck. Breaks into another place, steals a bicycle, trying to get out of the county on a bicycle, steals an AR-15. Goes to another woman's house to break in, breaks into that house, gets chased through the community. It's a 2-day manhunt thing we're doing. When he's breaking into houses, taking off in the woods, we're chasing after him. We finally arrest him to find out that he's on parole, had 2 other convictions while on parole, and is now loose running through the county while he's on parole. It gets worse. So then we go, so the guy's been on multiple convictions after he's been put on parole. Nobody's doing anything about it. We then take him to our jail, because remember, I'm a 287G.
Yeah.
So we run him through the system because he's born in Chihuahua, Mexico. I think it's Chihuahua, Mexico. Comes back that he's wanted by the U.S. government for illegal entering the country anyways, prior to his conviction status in Eagle County. So this guy shouldn't have been in the United States. He's been here for 6 years. He's committed all these offenses within the last 6 years, never been reoffended on any of this to go back to prison. We get him, we arrest him. I put it in the news, all this stuff. Hour later, I get a phone call saying, hey, the head of parole wants to sit down and have a discussion with you about this article you put out. In the prison, the guy that's in charge of the prison systems. I don't end up meeting with him. I meet with the guy that's in charge of parole. And he's like, well, what can we do to fix this, Sheriff? I'm like, rearrest your people. I mean, it's ridiculous. He's committed this many crimes in the state of Colorado. You're not pulling him back in because you don't want to show recidivism. Because we know what they're doing with the recidivism issues. So that is why you have the second highest violent crime rate in the United States. This is why we have crimes everywhere. This is why when we had all the automobiles being stolen, because we were kicking them back out of jail and off of parole constantly. So it used to be too, if you were on probation and you would urinate hot for methamphetamines, cocaine, fentanyl, marijuana, you'd instantly go back to the county jail. Now they don't. I've had people up to 18 times on peeing hot during their probation get put right back out on the streets. Because if you keep putting them in prison, the cost of that goes up. And then you had sheriffs that just push back to the state saying, we're no longer going to take $68 and have a backlog of all these inmates in our jails that we're paying $120 a day for. The state's only having to pay us for a $72 a day. So it's making it cheap on the state, expensive on the counties. So you had sheriffs push back and say, we're not keeping them anymore. This is on you, state. You're creating this. Whoa. Because the state was they're closing prisons. They weren't wanting to put them back in prisons because their cost was going up. And then they'd have to show that they have a higher crime rate than they have. So It's not a conspiracy thing. It's money management, leadership at a state level that's breaking the state on every single level. And the thing is, and I tell people all the time, we've been under Democratic majority now for, since Polis went into office, so 8 years, right? In 8 years, what part of Colorado is not under the pressures of being just gutted or working properly? Or what have they done with a Democratic three-way party at the top of the state? Attorney General, Governor, Clerk. What have they done to fix anything? What you see has been our budget going from almost having no debt to massive debt, low crime to overnight, because we had one of the lowest crime rates in the United States. In 8 years now, we're the second highest crime rate. We've seen all of these changes. What have you seen the Democratic Party do in the last 8 years, being in charge of everything, that has actually fixed anything in Colorado and not made it worse? I haven't seen anything.
Can't even say wolves.
Yeah.
Can't even say the word wolves. Yeah.
Wow. Do they not look at it and say it's costing us more?
Have you ever looked at something so close in front of your face that you can't read the print, right? That's what is happening in Colorado. And I think now you have even Democrats looking at it going, we can't sustain this. If you're a Democratic business person, you really need... I will guarantee you they're looking at it going, I don't know how I even support my party at this point.
Right.
So my hope is that people are waking up. Because, you had hunters and Second Amendment people that voted for Polis over the Republican candidates because they thought they were more libertarian. I'm like, do you see the print now? Yeah. I mean, we're facing, total change of our state on every level, and we don't see it.
I feel like a lot of people voted on like KK like that, right? So the 6.5% excise tax. A lot of people were like, "Oh no, it sounded good." Like, money back to mental health and veterans. And on paper, sure, it sounds good, but like 2 months later, they make it a cash fund for what?
Well, that's the thing. What has KK done for veterans?
Nothing.
I deal with a lot of veteran community, and I'm like, these guys and gals are being treated horribly across the state, and it breaks my heart to watch.
And we have huge military bases and Fort Carson and so much. We have the Air Academy, like so many people. Yeah. I mean, your county probably has a ton of veterans that are retired there.
I have a ton of veterans, and 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 that's what makes my county, I think, really good though too, is I have so many veterans and they understand the value of what they fought for in this state. And they see so many of the issues and they are so supportive. I've had nothing but such great experiences with the veterans of my community.
Good.
And we hire a lot of veterans into our organization just because I find them they've got life experience. There's something more than just, getting up one day and going, I'm going to go be a cop or,
Right.
and they're good people. And I think that's, it is interesting when you get into a veteran community, what they do and how they present themselves.
We've noticed that here. One of our employees is a veteran. We actually have a couple of veterans here, and he puts on like a Tuesday night just coffee talk, and
Keeps getting bigger.
it keeps getting bigger,
It's like-
and it's really cool to see, like just veterans supporting veterans, and this it's really interesting actually. It's pretty cool.
I think the reason for doing that obviously is like we're not getting the support that we need. We need to supply our own support. And building that community once again, being a staple of their success, right? So
Sometimes when things are getting bad, that's when people start to actually get together and start looking. Because look, before all these bans on 003 and all these other ones, how many gun shops actually talked across the state of Colorado?
Not very many.
And the reason why Colorado became such an easy pick for changing it on its face was that, unlike California, unlike a lot of other places, we don't have the things set up to protect your rights from things.
Right.
Because really, there wasn't a lot of lobbying for Second Amendment. There wasn't a lot of lobbying for your ranchers and farmers. There wasn't a lot of lobbying for counties. There wasn't even for sheriffs, right? Because we just kind of went along and, we're looking at things and maybe we go up and talk, but people listen to us as stakeholders. And all of a sudden, we have no safeguards like other states had in place because they've had years and years and years of dealing with it. All of a sudden, it was just an explosion of, holy smoke, what is going on? We've got to organize. We need to start fighting for our rights. It's like the wolves being dumped in the middle of all the ranchers' laps up there. And really people weren't educated as to what it was really going to do. And just look, Bambi's being just destroyed in this state. And you've got cats and dogs and you got things coming to the front range. I'm going, you don't see what's about to hit us.
Right.
And then we're spending tons of money on this when we should be spending on behavioral health issues and mental health issues and really doing things and decreasing our $1.2 billion debt. Now all of a sudden, all these things are popping up. So now everybody's standing up some form of protection together to push back on these issues. So it's not such a bad thing to a degree. I think you have to have that to change because we were not ready for the changes. To hit Colorado as just a general population. And now look.
I'd be curious at what has actually been spent there on those wolves. I mean, they sold it as $800,000. We just found out in that legislative session that it's $2.2 million, but how much other money is being spent there? It's just, I don't know. It's an interesting concept. Not following the 10J. They're making rules, making decisions just very, people on the ground are not allowed to do what they're supposed to do because other people are directing the way it's supposed to go. It just is, again, it comes back to the urban-rural divide of just...
And the thing about that, though, and what I've seen with the urban-rural divide is that if people are educated on both sides as to what they see, I think you could have a discussion and to make it a form of what could happen, right? Because I don't think the people that are making laws are evil. I just don't know that they know exactly what you're facing here, how that would impact, right? And it's the third order of impact effect too.
Right.
And it's the fact of the consequences that we don't always see when we start something and how it affects somebody later on. And I think, one of the biggest mental health issues I'm dealing with right now in my county is to be able to put food on your table next week as a husband or wife or a single mom, or our food banks were being shut down because there wasn't enough food because the state of Colorado, because of the federal mandates, and they were ignoring those, they lost their federal funding for those. So we as local organizations and as a county sheriff are now doing food drives and to help our local food banks get food in them.
Really?
Because the state cut all the funding for them. Well, when you are struggling at the cost of what food is now. $100 doesn't get you very far in a grocery store. You're not going to get through the week on $100.
No.
Whereas most families, they have maybe $100 left at the end of the month, $200, depending on rent, depending on cost of your house, and fuel. So that has a huge impact on what we're dealing with domestic violence situations, mental health issues, child abuse, because people are just frustrated. So at a certain level, we as a state are driving people to a point of no return in their own lives. So it's that bothers me, right? We shouldn't be putting people into a position where they have to feel that way because we are creating taxes, costs for them to go up, and we're doing that independently of everything else. So you can only blame it on Trump and the state of the country so many times, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're seeing, because Colorado, if you go outside of Colorado, say at the top Raton Pass, you're paying $1 less for fuel than what we do now. Well, why? It's taxes, it's fees. When you go to dump your trash, have you ever seen the energy cost on the bottom of the ticket? I go, what energy cost? Well, we got to pay for diesel. Well, so do I to get here.
No.
You know, so it's those types of things, and those aren't little bits. I mean, it's like $15 on a $100.
To add up.
It just continues to add up. So
I've said it before, and I think I think this kind of goes along the same line. Is I think the conversation just needs to be opened back up again, like not this side, not that side. Colorado, just conversation. Honestly,
it kind of brought me to one of my final questions for you is like, what does it look like when you're trying to, again, like not looking at it as a Democrat, not looking at it as a liberal or a Republican or libertarian or unaffiliated, like how do you unify them all to understand like why you are running for governor? And I think this conversation does open a lot of, I think will open a lot of people's minds to why you are running. But what do you think, and maybe in a closing remark or just in an understanding of what would continue to unite them to understand, to vote for you, to help you in this coming election?
I think to have a governor that is of the people, right? Because I'm at that level. I'm not above. I'm not looking down at you from up here.
Right.
I've not been a career politician. I understand the business side and I understand the law enforcement side. But I also understand that education is a thing that can make both sides come together. And having true stakeholder meetings, right? And I think having an understanding to sit down and have a dialogue with somebody over something means a lot. And being able to go to those communities, have these kind of discussions, and really see what that young single mom's dealing with here in rural counties like yours, whereas what they're dealing with in Denver. But young single fathers too, right? And how we all need to kind of work together to fix some of that. I think too, for me, I think you get into a general election, I'm the only one that can win it because I'm not far right, but I also understand, there's a far left side too, but in the middle is Colorado. This is the middle. And I think that's what people need to look at. And if you have a career politician that's been part of the problem for 30 years, or that has been in those positions for a long time, what are they going to get you? The other side of it too is if you Google me online, you'll see all about me, right? I'm everywhere because I am one of those people. I lead from the front. I think that good leadership is really the key to making any business work and any organization work at a state level government entity. But if you've not been part of those discussions and not been at that ground level of doing it, how are you going to do it? I hear too many candidates go, you know what, day one, I'm going to do this. Day one, I'm going to do that. I've opened a business. You're not going to do any of that at day one, right? You're going to look and see how things are set up and what's been done right and what's been done wrong. You're not going to know till you're in that seat. But if somebody's a smart CEO, a smart business person, they walk in and go, all right, where are we bleeding funds? I don't expect to change the state day one on its head. You're not going to. It's got to be a slow reversal. And you've got to be able to work with everybody at the same time. And you have to be able to understand not to get bound into all of the political, I need you to do this for me and I'll give you this. All those types of things that are happening. And I almost look at it like it's junior politics in this state at certain levels because there's been one group in charge for so long. The other side is just scrabbling for anything they can possibly get out of it. And that's got to stop. So I think for me, you want somebody that understands the rural side of things and then also the city side of things. I don't understand that. So I think in closing, if anybody can win a race, it'll be me. And unfortunately in Colorado, without having somebody totally different than what they've had before, they're not going to vote for them. but the field's got to clear too.
Yeah.
I think the biggest closing comment or question that I have is, where do you see Colorado in 10 years under your leadership?
You'll have a strong energy base. I think that's one of my big concerns is not having the energy we need to turn on lights and heat homes during the winters. Not with the current standards of what Colorado has. A firm economy where now we're selling and exporting more than we're actually bringing in. I think that's a huge thing. I think individual rights and then local government control of what you deal with. I think in one of the lowest crime rates in the United States. I do know a thing or two about crime, right?
Yeah.
And I do know that if I love our law enforcement officers and I give them all that's needed for them to go out and do their jobs, you don't need to bring in a National Guard.
Sure.
You can allow your local law enforcement to do what they've been designed to do and drive down the costs and the crime. And that allows you as citizens to be able to protect yourselves with not having to worry about so much crime every single day. And when your kids go to school, having safe schools and not worrying about a shooter walking in the door all the time.
Right.
And that's something that I know how to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I think the health of an organization or the health of Colorado is kind of defined by a couple different things. You as individuals that are trying to change something have to just keep moving forward with it. You can get down into the minutia of people that don't want to be a part of something. The further and faster you go at getting to what you believe is the right thing, people will eventually follow. And once they get into that culture of that next direction and where you're going to go, you will change the culture of a community or organization or state drastically without ever having to go head to head with it. Because when you do good things like that, people will follow it and then they will get on board and that will grow a movement to have more people want to be a part of something. I always tell people, I don't get down into the weeds with people that want to argue. I just don't anymore. It doesn't do me any good because that's what they want to do.
Bunch of noise.
You just have to make your decision on where you're going with it and move forward with it, and people will follow you regardless.
Do the thing you have to do to get to the thing that needs to be done.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's simple. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Haters always hate from the bottom.
Yeah. Well, really appreciate you being on and spending the time with us. I know there's a few things in here that we got kind of stressed out about, I think, in my mind, but I believe in you, and I'm really glad to have you as a candidate this year.
Well, thank you. I will tell you, I like doing these because I get to meet so many new people. And really, I will tell you, most of Colorado has the same belief as you do. Yeah. It's interesting when I sit down to these podcasts because they all kind of go the same direction. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we're all Coloradoans. Yeah. We're all trying to get to the same spot, either for our family, our lives, and or just where we're headed. And the one thing I will tell you is that we can do it together. I mean, it's not impossible. I hear so many people tell me it's impossible with things. And the biggest thing I found in life is that you just have to keep moving forward and doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. And once you do that, things will change and you'll get there. But I just want to say I appreciate it. Yeah. I think this is actually a better format to give information to people than anything else that I do. Because you have more people that watch you than what a news media does. Mm-hmm. And if you watch a news channel, you're lucky if they get 1,500 people from a region to watch them. Yeah. You will have that over the next week. Watch this. I had a gentleman I did a podcast with in the very beginning of mine. He normally has about 3,600 people that do it. Within a week, he had over 42,000 that watched that podcast.
That's awesome.
Right? Because people want to know.
Yeah.
They want to know what you have to say. So I just appreciate you having me on to do it.
Yeah.
Me personally, I just want to thank you. Thank you for coming out. I appreciate you cutting time in your schedule. I know it sounds like it's pretty busy.
Yeah.
Appreciate you putting your thoughts out there. I really like the direction that you want to take Colorado.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
It's a good vision.
Thank you. So you can find me at mikesell4gov.com. So that's Mikesell, Mikesell, the number 4, gov.com. Okay. You can follow us on all of our social media. We're out there everywhere. And we want you to invest in our campaign, not support. I don't need your support. I need your investment.
I like that.
And I think that's what I'm finding is that you got to invest monetarily, invest in time, because if you want Colorado back, you've got to take it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. We will include links below, so if you forget what we talked about today, we'll have some links on everything that we talked about. appreciate you watching. Appreciate the support.
Thanks, everyone. And always like, subscribe, throw a comment down there. Good night.